Hello, 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 my gorgeous friends. It's so nice to see everyone today. I have the coolest human being on earth. Okay, so I might have
Aw.
scared you a tiny bit. I got on a podcast with Kurt Graves, like at the beginning of the year, and I heard, oh, you guys all know the rules. If you want a message through to Andre, he knows he's not allowed to look at the chat. So feel free to hold on, I got to get the chat box up. Zoom has been playing tricks on us. Feel free to leave your messages in chat and I will send them to him after the call. And also, if you have any quirky questions or questions you'd like filtered through during the call. So I get on this podcast with Kurt and Andre, and mostly I'm telling myself because I can't remember what, oh, yeah, it was like about dual narrators and all
Yeah.
that. But I'm, as I always do in these situations, going, don't tell the truth, don't talk, just don't talk, just smile and agree and don't talk this time. You don't get to edit this one. So I'm doing that. And this guy comes on and he's Andre. And of course, I've heard his name. I mean, who hasn't heard his name? He's like a guru at like the whole social media thing. But this guy's smart. I mean, really, really smart. And so I spent the whole call just like kind of staring at him as he was talking because you could see his brain working and your perspective on promo and marketing and your place in the business and the actual business didn't make me want to gag like those subjects normally do. You you made everything you made everything seem palatable.
Mm.
So a little over the top, of course, at the end of that call, and I said this about Kurt as well. I said, okay, you two have to be my friends now. And then I emailed Andre and said, you have to come on the call, and I'm pretty sure you're a genius. And he's been very polite and professional from that point on, I think, to avoid any weird stalker at this point. But Andre, I want to hear about 10-year-old Andre. Were you
Oh,
always like this? Are you an actual genius? Have you been tested?
no, my God. No, 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 no. I feel like so I was born in Brazil. And I came to the US when I was like 3, so I spoke English better and faster than my parents did. And I feel like that was a lot of it, just like responsibilities at a young age. Um,
Confidence level as well, huh? I'm going to
Hopefully.
ask you to speak up because I'm afraid we've got a
Oh,
sound thing. It's kind of quiet, not just with you, with
yeah.
me. So we
Okay,
should scream at
absolutely.
each other for the next
I can
hour.
even turn my gain up for you.
Wonderful.
Um, but so I think it was a lot of that like responsibility at a young age. My I did have a conversation with my mom recently where she told me that I was like a bit of a perfectionist in like elementary school already, like homework assignments in second grade. Um, I don't know. I it was a jumble in my head. The thoughts, the perspectives, whatever. College was a lot of like organizing it. So I feel like that's what it is for me now, is I just like to see things, think about them. I like connecting dots. I'm super visual in my head. Um, so that's just kind of how I approach talking, I guess. So I don't know
Okay,
if that answers your question.
I'm going to take you way back.
Yeah,
So 10-year-old, where
10
are
year
you
old.
living?
10 years old, I'm in Seattle, Seattle, Washington.
I lived there. I lived by the Needle for a
Oh
while.
yeah. Mm.
Didn't get along with the weather very well, though. They warned me, but I thought when you don't live in Seattle, you think Seattle's a lot of sitting in lovely coffee shops with rain outside you. The rain is out to get you. It waits till you put your foot out the door and it attacks you. It and in answer to Rebecca, no, it's not. I kind of thought it would be. No, nothing compared to Seattle in the world. But
Yeah,
so
yeah.
10-year-old, you're in Seattle. Were you mentioned you had responsibility and a bit of
Mhm.
confidence. Did that feel like a weight on you? Did you become, were you a worrier?
Oh
Would you
yeah.
consider yourself carefree at any
No,
point?
I was definitely a warrior for sure. Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite poets has a line where she's like, I'll be a warrior. I'll be a warrior and you'll be a warrior. It's like about her daughter. But I think about that line all the time. I worried all the time for sure, for sure. I think it was I don't know. Like I said, grew up in an immigrant family. I was at 10 years old. What grade was I in? What grade are people? What grade are? What year is
Um,
that? I
um,
guess
um,
2007. So
Ten,
it was, yeah, later elementary
like
school, later in
sixth
elementary
grade,
school,
fifth grade, sixth grade, I think. Because
fifth or
the
sixth
horrible
grade.
years in middle school are like 12 and 13 when everyone turns ugly and
Yeah.
mean. Like, well, I mean, maybe that was just my experience.
Yeah, no, that was definitely fifth grade for me
Fifth grade.
was 2000, yeah,
What
2007.
about socially? How did you interact
Socially,
with other kids? Did you get along with them?
I feel like I did. I feel like I've always been like excited to socialize with people. I've definitely been like afraid of maybe like authority figures. Like for a while I was so afraid of asking teachers questions. I didn't want to like be in imposition, but I think with other kids I was a lot like much more social. Yeah. Yeah.
So, see, that's the opposite. We were the opposite. I loved adults because they had to like follow by the rules, but I thought younger people were just odd. Just
Well,
so you weren't a geek. We've established that you were quite confident.
yeah.
We already know
Yeah.
you're smart. There's nothing you could say to.
I was actually, there was a point where I was approaching high school and I really thought like there are all these cliques and I have to pick one. Which one am I going to fit into? And I thought, oh, I'm
Did you
probably going to
wait?
fit in.
Did
I
you really?
really,
You
I really
specifically
thought,
had that thought as a clear thought in your mind.
yeah, yeah. I specifically had that thought that I'm going to have to pick a clique, like, a jock, goth, like nerd or whatever. And I remember I specifically picked, I'm like, I think I'm going to fit in best with the nerds. And then I tried to watch the Star Trek movies and then I didn't get through one. And then I'm like, I guess that's it. We'll just, whatever happens will happen. And then it wasn't that at all. It wasn't like my high school wasn't very clicky at all. But
Unless you've obviously watched too many movies.
oh, so many movies. I adore movies. Adore movies. Yeah.
So, hobby wise, you get home from school, 10 years old. What are you most excited about? What's the first thing you do? What's your
It's
life
so
outside school like?
yeah. Oh, in at like 10 at 10, like younger. I was doing so many things. Like my parents had me in sports all the time. I don't remember what I was playing in fifth grade, but I did a lot of soccer. I did gymnastics. I did basketball, swimming. I learned I played the violin for 6 years. I did piano and trumpet, like all these different things for a long time. But I feel like I personally enjoyed Connects. I don't know if you know what Connects are. That was my thing around that age.
Was it like a game? It was like a,
So you know Legos, right?
yeah.
So Connects are similar to Legos in that they're like these plastic toys that you use to build things. So it's like rods and then like connecting beams. And they had a lot of sets for you to build roller coasters, and those were my favorite. So I would like build a lot of Connects, like sculptures and things like that.
Hello, are you on virtual reality headset? Do you have one?
No, no, my gosh, no. My housemate has one. I've played it like once, but I haven't done any of that myself
Oh,
yet.
because
Yeah,
you can build worlds in it. Not games. Those games, I don't get the game thing. I'm not a
yeah.
game person, but I do it for the meditation, which I'm obsessed with.
Mm,
And you can go in and do that connects kind of thing and build actual worlds. I've not
okay.
done that stuff because I only like the
Mm,
meditation,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
that's what it made me
I,
think of.
I did just watch Three Body Problem, so I might be off of virtual reality for a while.
Oh, I
If
haven't
that
watched that yet. Is it about virtual reality?
it's a component of it, a little component of it. But yeah, yeah. So I'll be here, grounded in real
Oh,
life for a bit.
I love the idea. I love the idea of just completely disappearing. There's
Yeah.
the one I use is like a house, and it's like my house. And I actually
That.
told the company when the trial ended, don't take it away from me. They're allowing me specially to hold on to it until the app comes out publicly.
I
So
love
it's like
that.
my house.
Oh, I love
So
that.
I digress. So
Mm,
I'm getting a picture of young Andre. And as we go through life, two things happen to all of us. Well, I mean, I've known some people that avoid these things, but to be honest, they're not the most interesting people to interview. So I'm hoping these two things have happened to all of us.
Mm,
Dark nights of the soul, a time
mm,
where you've come up against who am I going to be? Who am I? Which way do I go, left or right?
yeah.
How am I going to manage this? And then how did you don't have to give us details if it's too personal, but then what I'm interested in is the thought process and the journey and what you
Yeah.
realized when you got to the other side.
Yeah. I feel like I have a clear sense of what my big choice was as a teenager. I really struggled with homework in school. Um, Being in class, getting the material, great. But homework I really struggled with. And by the time I was in high school, I was definitely identifying like the subjects I was leaning into and the subjects I was pulling away from. And when I was in ninth grade, there was like they did a college fair at my high school where they fill the lunchroom with a bunch of different college
Okay,
rep- uh,
we lost you for a
I'm so
moment.
I think it's the rain that's cutting me in and out.
So
But
they
I'll
filled,
I'll
I
jump
told
back.
you the Seattle rain, it's out to get you.
It's always chasing me. It's always chasing me.
So they filled the
Um,
lunchroom with a bunch of different college, and that was when we lost
they filled the lunchroom with a bunch of different college representatives, and it's mostly for the juniors, to go around and really meet people as they're in the middle of applying for stuff. But they also have like the ninth and 10th graders go around. And I ran into a booth for a school that said that I didn't have to finish high school in order to start college there. Um, and so that was really early. That was fall my ninth grade year, and that was in the back of my head for about a year. And I applied the next year, and ultimately, when I was the month after I turned 16, I moved by myself from Seattle to Massachusetts, and I
you. I knew
started
you were a
school.
genius. College, like, right, like 10th grade, he's going to college, but no, I'm not a genius or anything.
I think
Right.
what was really clear to me after attending is that like it was a run-in of opportunity for sure that like I was able to go there. Because it didn't, it was nice to just have a clean slate. But it didn't necessarily solve all my problems. I think I had a different space to like navigate um all the things that I needed to do. But I think that was a big piece for me is like I said, I had a really kind of specific dynamic in my family and turned away from all of that to kind of go and lean into education, which had been this thing that was freaking me out for years and had been this like point of conflict for me for years.
You
Yeah.
redefined yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every time you move, you try on a different hat. That's why I loved moving my whole life, because every time you move, you become a different person until you're eventually a hybrid,
Mm,
which is the best thing on earth to be.
yeah. Yeah.
And you lose, and do you find that, like, do you have any friends that, because I have friends, and I'm not putting this down, but I have friends that still live in the same town that they
Yeah.
grew up in. And I just like, you become a different kind of human being.
Yeah.
Not better, not
Yeah.
worse, just completely different.
It's a different experience of like the consistency, I think, impacts us in a different way. And it's funny because in all this time, I've thought a lot about consistency. Because growing up, I moved all the time. This right now, if I, right now, living where I am right now is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. And it's it's 4.5 years, basically, that
But can
the
I
longest I've ever
challenge you?
lived anywhere.
Because New York City, it was the same for us with London.
Mm,
And I think the reason is that when you get to a city like London, what are you going to run to that's going to
mm,
have everything you have there? You're in New York City.
yeah.
What are you going to run to that's more of a challenge? You know what I
It's
mean?
not the same. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And everywhere we think about going next, it's like, oh, but they don't have this, or like all these things that you're losing, even if there are things you want to step away from, like the ridiculous cost of rent, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. You've reached the stars. How do you go to the stars and then I'll go to a nice suburban. I'll jump down. It's so, and you made me think of something. I put my finger on it, what I found
Mm,
really, really unique about you that I liked. You know, when you said that you were in school and you made a conscious decision, okay, I have to join a clique now,
mm,
right?
Yeah.
That's how you were talking on that call with Kurt. And I'd never heard anyone, I'd never seen, because as narrators, our challenge is to put ourselves behind the eyes of the characters that we're narrating, which
Mm.
is the writers,
Yeah.
see it from there. So I was seeing it, something that had bugged me for a long time, because there is a lot of cliquiness and tribe. There's a lot of, I'm not going to say virtue signaling because that'll upset people, because I'm not putting down any specific thing, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of signaling required to get along with coworkers. I know we're all a big community, but in any
Yeah.
community, you have to signal that you're part of that community. And that for a person that's always been the outsider, and a lot of narrators are always outsiders, but they're quite good at signaling. They're quite good at learning signals. And you talked about it the way you talked about being in high school, in school. And I have to decide, but like, oh, like here's another requirement of the job, like punch and roll. So I just have to figure out technically how to navigate it. You see what I'm saying? You don't have your ego attached to it. I could hear it in the way you talked. You were just
Mm.
analyzing the business. You were analyzing promo. You even said something about doing promo on a book at one point.
Hmm.
Um, I really admire that, because it would hurt a lot less. I mean, does your ego ever get, do you ever have to fight your ego in this job?
My God. Yeah. That's I think been its own whole other journey. That I funny enough also got to kind of explore with the narrator roundtable, but I really feel like there's a lot of ways I seek validation, right? And audiobook narration is not necessarily like where Hollywood stars come from. But I think we have opportunities to like be seen within the community, to be seen by producers. There are really successful, well, like high selling books, or even through reviews and awards and all these other spaces. Um, and I feel like that's this place I have to navigate is the kind of like sting of criticism is, is criticism. It feels sometimes like the sting of criticism hurts me a little more than it should, and the sweetness of like praise is like a little too impactful, and I'm trying to navigate those things in the midst of like ego and find
Are
a
you talking
balance
about
and a relationship to
reviews?
it.
Are you,
Review award, kind of any, just the being perceived of
yeah.
like the fact that we put out work into the world and people have ways of looking at that work and saying whether it's good or not, and even saying it is the best or not the best, or there's so many ways we can be framed, our work can
But
be
you're
framed.
you're putting your finger right on the entire reason. When I first started narrating, you're trying to decide if you're good, and if you're an actor, you spend your whole career thinking, "Please don't let me be a bad actor. Please don't let me be a bad actor," and so no, and the praise doesn't last for very long.
Yeah.
So when you're a narrator, I got these amazing review, and the editor, my very first, because I'd done books for the Royal National Institute of the Blind,
Yeah.
but you don't get to hear those books because you don't
Yeah.
have that. So I started Audible. Even the editor was like, "Oh, I really love the story." And I was like, "I'm a good narrator. I knew I would be. I knew I was." And then somebody wrote, "This woman is awful. This
Mm.
woman, why is she allowed to speak?" And I think they said something about she made fun of so and so, and we're not stupid. Just, and I was like, "Oh my God." And I was so
Yeah.
upset. And I was listening to a podcast, and the person said, "I don't read my reviews anymore for
Hmm.
anything." She was like a blogger, a business on. She
Yeah.
said, "Because if I'm gonna, if I want to believe the good reviews, then I have to believe the bad reviews, because they're
Yeah.
exactly the same thing." People, I
Yeah.
disagree when people say, "Just look at the good ones, pin them up in your booth," because by pinning them up in the booth, you are telling yourself that someone else's exterior opinion is as important as yours. And you're also saying that your ego matters.
Yeah.
Whereas
And
if you don't look at them, have someone check out for technical issues, which I do once a month, and I don't read my reviews. And when I do
yeah.
screw up and get tempted, I'm always unhappy and uncentered
Yeah.
for like a week.
And we have so many projects I think where it goes up on Audible, and then there's never an audiophile review. No one ever leaves an Audible review, even if they buy it, and it leaves this sense of, I think, like non-completion for those things that don't get that external validation or that external response. Um, but it's been a process because I'm Gen Z. I'm so connected to the internet, and it's so quick for me to just like pull up a website or pull up something in that regard.
You've frozen again.
Sometimes it's hard. Whoops.
Okay. So,
It's
so
so easy to, yeah.
do you think of yourself as Gen Z? Because I know you mentioned it on that podcast as well. Because I think of myself as millennial, but I have to be careful because then I also buy into the things people say. Not millennial, Gen X. I'm not millennial, but I buy into the things people say about millennials and Gen X. And I don't want to fall down that social media trap of they're all like this, we're
No,
tough, you know?
I I think about it from a handful of perspectives that like are so easy to override. I don't think it's like any, if
We lost you again
for
for
me,
just a.
um, oh no, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no. So,
But for me, it's just funny that a lot of the attributes apply. But I just explicitly mean like I think it's 1997 to like 2000. It's 15 years, right? So 2012, and I was born in 1997, so I'm a Gen Z elder
so
essentially.
like being a Gemini, like that kind of like
Yeah,
attention to it.
yeah. There are some people who would lean into that more than I would for sure. But yeah, it's just here's a way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that perspective. Um, yo, yes, please. Quirky questions are always Barbara. Seriously, what call do you think you joined? Um, what name a topic you wish you knew more about?
Oh, oh my gosh. I enjoy painting my nails, and I painted them and went to a wedding, and someone saw them and then showed me their painted nails, and they had done it themselves, and there were like ombres and like palm tree designs and like a
Love
whole
that
thing.
stuff.
And so I'm like, and it all looks so complicated to me, and I'm not ready. If I feel like if I dive into a hobby, I dive into a hobby. Like my
Yeah.
last hobby that I started was audiobook narration, and here I am. So I'm I'm just like, that's I wish what I knew more about, but I'm too afraid to learn. Yeah.
Okay, you are comfortable with your ambitious side, and I love that about you. I think we have that in common. You don't apologize for wanting to do well and make yourself proud. And I admire the hell out of that. So, do you, because you know what, you changed the way I do my business. After that call with you, I started submitting books to Audiophile just as I submit emails to publishers,
Yeah.
not as if my whole personality is on the line if I submit one book a year, just as like an admin thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I haven't applied for awards yet. Have I missed it for this year?
No. There's time for all of them, I think. One voice.
Oh,
So, but yeah, they're all later. They're all later.
yay. But I'd be interested in hearing your take on awards and the strength
Yeah.
and value of them, because that was another thing. Hearing you talk really, really inspired me, whereas I'm not normally inspired to do
Yeah.
anything to do with awards.
Yeah.
Tell us about awards.
It's such a like there's two ends to the spectrum. And the first one that I think we all know is that like it's really cool for someone else to see your work and be like, I like it. Let's give you a little trophy because I like it, you know? Like that's a great feeling. And there's I think a lot of limited value in like, oh, if I maybe am an award-winning narrator or have these kinds of recognitions that more people will be once they see me more likely to work with me. Um, and additionally, like part of what I want to celebrate too is like just having been at the Audies early last month, like the sense of community and celebration in that space alone, like even among the people who just came through to hang out and weren't nominated, and even among the people who got nominated but didn't win, it was just like it was festivity. It was like great. The vibe was immaculate, and I feel like there's all those positive pieces are great. It's resume building. It's an opportunity for you to highlight a project that you loved. It's, a way to show your business value to producers if these are these ways that you're adding to the marketing and publicity of the title. And I think in the same way that you talked about reviews, like we just have to acknowledge what the reality is about a award or any kind of thing. They're considering awards that they have in front of them to consider. If I haven't submitted myself for anything, if
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like a void of meritocracy that just like across all possible audiobooks selects them. Like someone has to submit the title. So if you don't submit it, if the publisher doesn't submit it, then of course you're not gonna like be considered for it. Um, and if you are considered for it, Audie's, for example, I actually don't know how big the judging groups are for each category, but it's like 5 people. Like that's what that means. It means that you were submitted, and on average, most of those 5 people liked you. That's what a nomination means in the end. Um, and so that's really cool. It is I can't pretend like, like I got to watch like the moment when Billy Fulford Brown like went up on stage. That was, oh my God, the energy was amazing. Amazing moment. And it is a specific thing. It does not getting those things does not mean anything about your narration, does not mean anything about you and your hireability or if you'll work again or all these other things.
But it could
Um,
mean that you're risk adverse, because the same
yeah,
reason I don't read my reviews,
yeah.
I'm not playing the game. Well, like, what does that say about you? That's something I need to work on, because if you're not in it, then, but I don't sit back and feel jealous, right?
Yeah.
Because I know I didn't enter. But why are you not taking this business opportunity and putting aside part of your budget? You know, it's
But
business. It's not your ego, it's business.
but also like if you don't submit anything ever again, it does not detract from the work that you do. So I think as long as you can navigate those things with balance and with understanding, then like dive in. But it definitely has, I think, been like a journey for me personally to be like, oh, I didn't get this. That's okay. Like
Frozen again.
I'm gonna
Oh, the thing is, it freezes you in really unattractive. I'm going to try to edit this.
um but I was saying if if you don't get something, to be like, yeah, that's okay. My life isn't over. My career isn't over. My narration it has means nothing about my narration.
Do you
I'm gonna keep going.
meditate? Like, why are you like this? Like, do you like jog every day? Like, how
God,
do you not get like me? How are
I
you so like that? Like, were your parents that way? Or, yeah, centered.
oh,
That's the word.
no.
He's centered. Why?
It
How?
is just a well practiced facade. I get so anxious. I have anxiety. I get so anxious. I have my like emotional bouts. I get disorganized amidst like chaos. Um, I don't know. I feel like I am super attuned to the impact of how I come off to other people, and I feel like that has really brought me to be specific about how I show up. And it feels good for me if it's the way I want to show up. But I guess that's it. I've just been in a lot of situations, like I said, where I've had to be thoughtful about the way I talk or be really organized about the thing that I'm thinking about or in discussing. Um, and so all of that has just impacted who I am on a personal level and how I show up in places.
I think that might be a difference between Gen X and Gen Z, because I'm super, super insightful as well. And, I think we both get to that point where, like, you sense exactly what's needed of you in any social or interaction. And you say this and you seamlessly perform. And I
Mm.
say, screw it. Might as well just burn the house down.
I do love a good burn bridge every once in a while.
So tell me about your dreams. Your
Mm,
biggest dream that if you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world and you couldn't lose anything and nothing bad
mm,
would happen and you were guaranteed success, what would you
mm.
want? What would you ask for right
Not
now?
even like audiobook book specific, just in the whole world.
Anything in the world, your biggest dream, the thing that kind
Wow.
of scares you, that like even getting it would scare you a little.
Oh my gosh. I realized well into doing audiobook narration that I do also want to explore other kinds of acting, and I feel like having an opportunity to like act in a movie of some kind would be a little bit terrifying.
So cool. A big
Oh my
one, a
God.
real big movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's all the pieces about like fame and celebrity and whatnot, but also like I just think about like I don't know if you've ever seen the people talk about what it's like behind the scenes of some working on some big blockbuster movie, and they're like it was just a great time, like we're strapped in all these harnesses in this big green screen room, or we get to do all these great scenes, or the energy and excitement of it, I think just like yeah, I'd love to try it and know what I feel about it, if that makes
And
sense.
test yourself. I did a sitcom, a BBC sitcom,
Mm.
um, but there was no. I was just in a prison yard. But I want to do that too. But my plan is when I'm
Mm.
an old woman, because there isn't that much competition. They've all died or given up.
Oh, I like it. There we
And
go.
I'm a good actress. I would be a really good old woman actress. I'm so gonna reinvent myself and be an old woman actress.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah, that's I can see you in a movie. I can see you in a blockbuster. Oh, can I please tell people that I knew you then?
Absolutely.
I'm
Oh.
I'm I'm calling in that chip right now, Andre. But this conversation we're having, it's all laughs and giggles, right?
Mm,
But maybe it shouldn't be. I've been
mm,
thinking about that a lot lately, about our dreams and the importance we give our dreams, and if it's too big, we don't let ourselves, like, when you're a kid,
yeah.
it's true, it's real. We don't let
Yeah.
ourselves make it real.
Mm,
You could be in
yeah.
a movie. There's literally nothing stopping you.
There's nothing stopping me. And there's been a lot of, I got an audition through one of my agents. It was weird because it was a voiceover agent, and they sent me an audition for like a movie filming in Florida. And I decided not to submit it in the end. Like, I feel like I definitely like step back from things like that. It's like, oh, how would the scheduling even work? And instead of leaving the that kind of conversation up to like if it happens, just opting out of it fully and letting I guess fear or closing off possibility to
Okay, right.
yeah.
That's it. The next time you get anything acting from your agent, message me, call me. I'll get you right off that one because I don't step back from that kind of thing ever. I used to jump
Yeah,
in and do any of that. But next time I have to hit the button on an award, I shall email you.
perfect.
Because-
I like
but
this. I like this.
seriously, you
Yeah.
because that's where you go to the interesting an agent call can take you to the most amazing things. And that's
Yeah.
serendipity. That's how the exciting stuff happens. That's a whole new world.
Yeah.
And you're at a perfect place to launch into that world.
Hmm.
Plus you've got nothing to lose, literally nothing to lose. Quirky question from Barbara. Do you know, Barbara, that I always want to call you Babs? Would that offend you? I've always wanted to have a friend named Babs. She wants to know if you have a favorite quote.
Ooh, a
And
favorite.
also, just don't call me. Oh, no, not Barbie. You're a Babs. So Babs says she agrees as well and can see you in a movie and would love to see you in a movie. So we're gonna
Oh.
start. We're gonna start a campaign. So, do you
Oh.
have a favorite quote?
Hmm. I feel like I'm bad with favorites. I love things as I experience them. I don't do a lot of cataloging and ranking. Um, there's a really
It froze you
thinking of
again.
right now.
That was a
Oh
good
no.
pose, though. I'll keep that one in.
There's a really funny quote from Miranda July, and I'm not going to remember it specifically, but it's from one of her short stories in the collection, No One Belongs Here More Than You, and it's something along the lines of like, I come from women who, work on earthquake preparedness committees. Or you come from a long line of royals, and I come from women who work on earthquake preparedness committees, or something like that. I don't know. I like good writing as much as I like, impactful or like inspirational quotes. But yeah, that's just the one that popped into my head.
I love that. I love that um yeah, I love that the things that we read become part of us.
Mm.
And you might not remember the exact word, but it informs like everything you do. It just takes one line. Kim, oh, Kim's another good one here. Kim, what was your favorite Halloween costume as a kid?
I never ended up like really fully putting together a Halloween costume growing up. It'd always be some kind of like mishmash of something like 3/4 parts of a vampire costume and then like 1/4 like I don't know like the pastor or something. It was never nothing ever put together all the way. um but I did, let me think, there is a photo of me somewhere. I think it's the vampire costume, just full cape, full face makeup, like all white face with the little fangs, and I'm gonna have to track that down somewhere now. But I just remember it being a very fun year for Halloween.
You definitely should. I think this Halloween we should all post pictures of ourselves when we were kids and our favorite costumes.
Mm,
So you're in a parallel world. I'm a big fan of like the whole time travel parallel. They're living in another, there's another Andre living in a different world
mm.
with a completely different life, same kind of like family and everything, but things are different. What job do you do?
Um, it's funny. I mean, before when I started narrating, I was a recruiter, and there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
When I started narrating, I was a recruiter, and while I was doing that, I was thinking about like getting a graduate degree and progressing in the corporate world. But my undergrad degree is in psychology,
Oh no, it was getting
master's degree
good.
in.
Your
Oh no.
undergraduate degree in psychology and then it froze.
My undergraduate degree is in psychology, and I was interested in getting a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology and doing institutional restructuring and reform work of like, how do you get better managers? How do you make people more productive? How do how you reorganize people's relationships to each other to get better workplaces? But
Well,
that's
both
something that I like
Barbara and I are
genuinely
saying,
liked.
wow. Maybe she didn't have that exact same tone. But what made you not do that?
The graduate degree was expensive, and like a few months later, I fell in love with audiobooks.
Any regrets?
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
I've worked in corporate office. You're in the right parallel world, I'll tell you that. um, oh yeah, and Barbara says where you excel, and I think we can all agree that you do. Oh, Barbara works in a corporate. Oh, you still do, Barbara. I don't know how she does it. She has like two full-time jobs. She works in a corporate office and can't wait to get out, but she's also a full-time narrator. See, that's the thing.
Mm,
It informs your character and your personality. It's
yeah.
taking me like 5 years to shed the feelings working in a corporate office. I think that
Yeah.
might be why I don't try to fit into the herd as much. But so I keep digressing. So, audiobook work.
Mm.
Did you ever, you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, I'll edit it out, but I'm really fascinated by the whole getting promo for a book thing. Did you learn anything about that? Is it a viable thing? Is it something you would recommend? How does that even
Yeah.
work?
So anybody can essentially just hire a publicist, and they like to work with like a time frame and a project in mind so that, because what they're doing is putting out a statement and getting people to write about you or interview you. And so it's like, oh, this thing is coming out on this date, like, you want to get your interview in before that date, or something along those lines. So I ended up picking a project, hired the publicist, and it wasn't like, really not a lot happened afterwards. I think there was like one thing that was written that seemed to be kind of like, a lot of people that publicists work with, like, something gets written up in that one place. But I think audiobooks specifically, unless they are really major or have a celebrity behind them, don't necessarily get a lot of traction in those kinds of like spaces.
So was it a book
Un
you were publicizing or
Yeah,
yourself?
it was a book
It was
specifically.
a
Yeah.
book.
Mhm. So, and there wasn't a big thing in my career, like, not like a big catchy headline for my career necessarily that could have been the focus of the write-up. So there wasn't a ton of outcome to it, and I don't think I'm going to do it again anytime soon. Like, there's nothing specific that I would do it again for soon. Um, but I can see it working really well for someone with the right project, the right situation, for sure. Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
really expensive? Like your mortgage for the whole year expensive? I mean, you
Not
don't have to say.
exorbitantly. It was a few $100s essentially. Yeah. It wasn't
Oh,
exorbitant. It
really?
was, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
I thought that
It
was like much more.
No, it's not like you're hiring a whole team and they're gonna go out and like meet in person and gonna make a plan. It's just like, someone puts together a statement, they send out the statement, and then they field any kind of responses to the statement. But they're doing that for a ton of people at the same time. So it's not exorbitantly expensive.
So wouldn't the money go further if you were to say buy? I always wonder about buying Amazon ads for books. And I'm kind of
Maybe.
thinking from the writer's perspective more than a narrator's. I'm just
Yeah,
curious about the whole marketing promo thing. I
yeah.
see Amazon books on my Facebook page being advertised all the time. It doesn't seem that
Yeah.
expensive.
It probably isn't. And it honestly might be in a lot of cases, but I think the difference being that, like, that would be to make sales on the product. And part of my thought process was about just getting like my name in front of authors, or getting my name in front of listeners in a way that might impact, like, how known I am as a narrator, or if people actively request me on an audiobook that they have coming through a production company. So there's kind of like different impacts, those affect different spaces. I don't think it makes sense for a majority of audiobooks. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, see, right there is where our thought processes diverge.
Mm,
And I think right there you've hit on my biggest fear.
mm,
I hide, like from that kind of putting myself on the line for that, which is ridiculous. Like, which is stupid, you know. How many books are you going to have before you start actually? But like I hide from, I don't want to be promoting myself. I can post about books I've done because I'm promoting the author. I can post about Cup of Joe because I'm promoting André Santana, who's like the most amazing genius on earth. Do you know what I mean? But it's weird. We've
yeah.
all got our thing, and you do it flawlessly, and you don't even like. Did you worry initially when you started doing that
Um,
promotion stuff? Did it feel weird, or was it just a normal thing to you?
I think part of what I got used to was that I went to a really, really small college. The school that I mentioned, there were 400 students total, all 4 years. Um, and I like getting involved, and it became a kind of space where I was like well known among other students, and so there was celebration that came with that. There was like this opportunities for self-promotion that came with that. Um, and I think it just kind of settled in place as what it is, as opposed to some big thing about me or some big thing about like
Yeah.
the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not too terrifying, but
Do you think it's Gen Z? I know we've just said that this isn't a real thing, but do you think it might be a little bit Gen Z, Gen X difference because Gen Z had to live that way? Because didn't you grow up digitally in your brand? And if you don't have a brand, do you even exist now?
yeah, it was funny because there's like a people, I think, across generations, interact so differently with social media to where I remember, there's this conversation that millennials were told, like, if they find out you have Facebook, they won't hire you, or like you won't get into college if they find your Facebook account. And whereas for not as much by the time I was going to college, but even just after I went to college, it would be to the point where it's like, to apply to this job, you have to include your Instagram handle, or you have to include your, TikTok when you apply to this college or whatever it is. Um, so the shift impacts how people exist on those spaces, and it impacts, like you said, how visible people are comfortable being. Like, I'm not, by circumstance more than generation, I'm not the type of person who just like has my phone out to catch the next like TikTokable moment. You know what I mean? But there are also parents who are like filming every moment with their child because they have a family TikTok account or something like that. Um, so yeah, that definitely impacts all of the willingness to be perceived that people
Well,
have, I
there
think.
was a study I heard the other day, I think it was 2010, that
Mhm.
people's mental health took a dive because
Mm,
it changed from you give your kid a phone to go to school, and then in an emergency they can make a call, but then suddenly it became smartphones.
yeah,
And the minute it became smartphones, everyone was on stage. Like, who wants to be on stage during puberty? You
it's
know what I mean?
horrifying.
And,
Horrifying.
and it's affected. I mean, I think it's girls even more than boys are self-harming. The people are, it's literally affecting people's mental health in a
Fully.
horrible, horrible way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you are right that I think the it's like the Gemini thing. It's of course it's not going to rule your life, and of course you have to be careful not to make assumptions about other people. But it does help when you get like annoyed. Why is everything this way? It shouldn't be this way. We all do it. I don't care who it is. It's a natural reaction.
Mm.
And don't even get me started about customer service. Customer service doesn't exist anymore. People used to have to do their job.
One of my favorite things to say is that there are people who just go to restaurants to cosplay power. There
Yeah,
really are.
yeah, yeah. They're really, I
Oh,
mean, it's but I don't ever want to be, I think that's the key to getting old is to become the
mm,
person that fights what is.
mm.
Because that's what complaining is. You're complaining about what is.
I don't know. I don't know that I agree. I feel like there's a difference between um fighting like change for the sake of fighting change because you do not like change versus like fighting characteristics of a changing world that are actively harmful. Not in the example that, the facetious example you gave, but like, uh, I not to, in the last 10 minutes drop a bomb, but like a lot of the conversation about AI, people are saying like, oh, like I guess we have to go with it, we have to learn it. It's something about like the smartphone changed the world. Now AI is going to change the world and we have to figure out how to live with it. Um,
Oh, wait, you froze.
and I feel like it isn't antiquated of someone to like have real grounded critique of AI and be like cynical about its impact in the world and to not want to like participate in that change. Um, and I think it applies to plenty of things for
But
sure. Yeah.
can I offer perhaps be aware it's coming, fight for the important things that you need to hold on to, but challenge yourself to not let fear rule your opinions because there's a lot of AI that isn't just really bad audiobooks because they're horrendous. But there's a lot of AI that isn't just that. There's a lot of AI that's great. It's the asshole, excuse the language, the asshole people money grubbing, doing a money grab as fast as possible because I think AI could be a beautiful, wonderful thing. It's advances, it's technology, it's us getting smarter and doing these amazing things. So the minute something amazing puts its head above the parapet. The assholes come out to try to get as much money as possible and do a cynical money grab and like screw it up for the rest of us. But I think some things should always stay the same. Values,
Hmm.
kindness, speaking up.
Yeah.
But I think where we go wrong is we let fear make us small, fear of
Hmm.
change. So we're not going along with the ride. We're letting the assholes
Yeah.
go on the ride. And we're sitting back going, no, 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 don't hurt us.
I
There's a
feel,
lot of fear with narrators, don't you think? A lot of like
yeah.
scarcity bombing and freaking
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
that's not helpful. And it's not going to
No.
get us anywhere.
Mm-mm. I I think one of the biggest things that impacted me in my life is my ongoing relationship to what I guess I'll amorphously refer to as DEI. My college degree is a mix of, like I said, psychology, but also biology and sociology. And what I did with it was identity studies. Um, and my thesis was about like queer identity development. I worked in DEI at a college for 2 years. I continue to do DEI committees in different places. For me, like all of that has like shaped my values, and a lot of those values impact how I look at AI. Um, and for me, really, I think about like the ethics of sourcing and creation, right?
Mhm.
Like all the folks on LibriVox whose voices were just used, even though it's public domain, used without consent to create like a program for Microsoft, or all the
The
stuff that was
assholes.
scrubbed for Chat GPT.
Yeah.
So that I think that reality is impactful. Like OpenAI does not pay for its what it sources all of its AI from, and they're going to make a ton of money off of all of that content, and no
And
one
those are
who,
the people that we need to be fighting those corporations. First, it was the actors. The actors are all going to come for our jobs because of COVID. Now they're all going to take our jobs and we're never going to work again. Then it was AI. We're never going to work again because of AI. Then it was all these new people. They've all taken our jobs and they're all online. And then it was, oh yeah, the strike. The actors are coming back for our jobs. The actors don't want our jobs. Very few of them want to stand in a booth for 20 hours a day.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
it's someone else is always out for their job.
yeah,
And there's always a reason. And then everyone wants to make everyone feel bad about why there's scarcity. And they're creating scarcity. They're creating a
yeah.
myth. And so I think this is the André Santana call, not the Daniela Acitelli call, which I kind of got on a tangent. But I think it's the fear. It's
Yeah,
the cultural fear of change. We don't want to let other people in. We don't want to do that. It's the
yeah.
fear of AI. It's the fear of this. It's the fear of reviews.
Mm.
What about if we get in the booth and do the very best job we can do? What about if Andre goes and accepts the next job from his agent that could have sent him somewhere exotic doing an amazing movie, but he will never know because he didn't do it. It's the fear thing.
Yeah.
Um, and also, most importantly, what's the last cool purchase you made, if any? Babs wants to know.
The last cool purchase I made. Oh my gosh.
On a lighter note, oh
I
my
do I
gosh, this is like I've had a few calls like this where I had to go and edit out a whole chunk. I set the whole world to rights.
oh my gosh, what have I purchased recently? I don't even know. I don't even know.
Andre, are you not a shopper?
I not a ton, no. I there was a point at which I gave up Amazon, and I think I gave up recreational shopping a little bit at that point too. But I
That's
love
the
earrings.
saddest thing I've ever heard.
Not my so it's the happiest thing my wallet has ever heard. I love earrings, and I love enamel pins, and there was a earring converter I bought so you can wear enamel pins as earrings. I think that's my favorite thing I've recently bought.
What's an enamel pin? You mean like that
And
you'd pin to your jacket?
exactly, yeah. Or people love putting them on their backpacks and their tote bags and stuff. So it's a little holder and you can hold it, have it as an earring.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's very good. Okay,
Mm.
one last question I'm going to
Okay.
hit you with. If the YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in the next 300 or so years, if you would like them to take anything at all away from this call,
Mm.
anything, one thought, one word of advice, one piece of wisdom, a funny joke, what would you like to leave them with?
Mm. Just because we talked about a little bit about AI, there was one thing I remember from, I want to say it was a year and a half ago. I don't know if you remember, everyone was doing it at the same time. You could, I don't know how much it was, $10 or something like that. You gave him a bunch of your photos and then it spit out like paintings of you or like, profile
Oh,
pictures
yeah.
of
And they
you
all look the
with AI.
same after a while. It was like
They
those women
do.
that get their faces pinned up. You can't tell them
Yeah.
apart.
But that was happening and really popular at the same time that I think maybe the Apple AI voices had launched, and there was a lot of fervor around narration AI. And it was hard to watch people be like, never AI here. No, don't take our jobs. And then on the same
Yeah.
Facebook account, go over and then pay for a program that was using stolen artwork. And I think that one of the things that I want to see is um, us living our values in order to be in solidarity. Because I think that we're here to do this beautiful work. And I think that the best ways that we are going to do that work is in solidarity with each other. The opportunities that I have to like recommend friends is a form of solidarity. The opportunities that I have to like be thoughtful about accent choices in a book is a form of solidarity, right? And so I think just extending that thought process outwards to other art forms, to other spaces, thinking about like my personal life where AI is arriving, thinking about the way that AI might arrive to other people and how I can be of support and help us live in like love and community, like you said, rather than fear. I think those are going to be the places where we get to continue to be the most powerful as a community and the most focused on our artwork. Yeah.
That's so lovely. That's exactly. So we're both basically saying be kind and follow what you learned in kindergarten, but you're saying let's do it in solidarity as friends rather than me saying, oh, come on, suck it up, stop. I think your way is much better.
I love it. We'll reach different audiences,
I
but
do.
then we've
I
covered
love your
ground.
way. I love your way. It's very good because it's true, isn't it?
Mm.
Isn't it? Together we're stronger. So this has been fabulous. Thank you for being my friend. I knew you were a genius the minute I met you.
Oh my God. Oh,
I'm
it's been
so
such a
happy you
pleasure.
joined the call. Thank you so much.
Thanks
And
for having me.
Kim says, Andre, you're an inspiration. Thank you for this thoughtful conversation.
Oh,
And yes, Andre definitely brought the thoughtful element. Thank you so much. You
thank
are
you,
a
Daniela.
genius. You're wonderful. And thank you guys for joining all my faves. Mwah! Take care, you guys. We'll see you on the other side.